So this subject came up on my Facebook page a few weeks ago, and it was debated quite a bit. It's been on my mind since then. But this is not a new subject. This is hotly debated. Should you be able to put your hand into your dog's food bowl? The answer is probably, but just don't. It comes up regularly because people talk about how to make your dog safe around kids. If the kids are playing and the dog is eating, what if the kid's hand goes near the food? What if the dog's eating and the kids are nearby? We talk about food guarding, possession, all of those kinds of things. I'll come up to that in a minute, because actually really putting your hand into your dog's food bowl is actually just a power move. And this dates back to those original methods which were based on dominance and alpha techniques, pack structures. This came about because we were trying to teach our dogs that we were the alpha male in our pack and we could do whatever we wanted, because that was the role of the alpha. You could put your hand in your dog's food. You could take their food away if you wanted. We could take their bed away at any time. Any comforts, all of that stuff, we could take charge of it if we wanted to. And by teaching our dogs that, we felt then that that made them feel more submissive to us. They were perhaps a bit more grateful, a bit calmer, better behaved, more obedient. Of course, we've since debunked all of those theories. So we know that there's no such thing as dominance and submission and alpha and all of those things in a pack. A pack of dogs is a cooperative group of animals that live together. They are kind and cooperative. They are emotional and empathic to each other. They survive for the good of the team. We know that food is a primal requirement by animals, not just our dogs. Food is a primal requirement for all animals. We need it, ducks need it, ants need it, every creature on this planet, birds, reptiles. We need food to survive. We cannot live without it. It is important to our survival as drinking water and breathing and sleeping. These are on the primal layer of our pyramid of needs, and we can't survive without them. So these are the needs that if they become threatened, we will guard the most fiercely, because if we didn't, we would just die. So when we're talking about putting hands into dog food bowls, now we know that this is just a power move, really. So why are we still doing it? Well, some people will say that this is a useful training technique because it teaches the dog not to fear a hand coming into their food. It makes them safer around kids and other animals, and etc, etc. But let me ask this. How many times would you let me put my hand into your plate of food, take some food away and eat it? The first time you would probably be quite surprised and shocked because you would not have been expecting that. So I might get away with it once. Would I get away with it a second time or a third? How many times do I have to put my hand into your plate of food before you start to feel protective and defensive of that food? And what I'm getting at here is that until we started doing this, it hadn't occurred to our dogs that they needed to guard the food. Food came regularly and freely. It was expected at certain times of the day. Most of our pet dogs don't really understand what proper hunger is. So it's never concerned them before. They've never been worried about food. And now all of a sudden a hand's coming into their bowl. Now they're thinking about it. Now it's on their mind. And now they're starting to worry about it. Do I need to defend my food now more often? So we probably didn't even have a problem until we started trying to solve a problem. So what do we do here? What is a better solution than putting your hand into your dog's food bowl? Well, if you are very worried about it, you can get your dog used to extra food coming, because when your dog becomes concerned about your hand going in the food bowl, their fear is that you're going to take food away, and that will mean that they will get hungry, and that threatens their primal need, and essentially it threatens their survival. So what if then, instead of taking food out or putting your hand near their bowl or taking their bowl away, what if every time you went near your dog, you gave them extra food? What if it was tastier food, their favorite food? Maybe they're sitting there and they're eating their kibble, and they've got perhaps some dog meat chopped into that as well, some tinned food. What if you came over and threw a handful of cheese down for them as well? What if you came over and threw down a few of their favourite treats, or some bits of chicken, or some chopped up sausage that was left over from your tea. Now your dog will start to look forward to you coming near their bowl. They'll associate people being near their food with extra food, nicer food, their favourite treats. So they'll start to look forward to that. That will make them happy, it will make them relaxed, they'll be calm, and then enjoy people moving around near their bowl and near them while they're eating. But I've got an even better way of making sure that kids are safe whenever you are feeding your dog. And that is, just don't let them go near the dog. This is a really simple way to make sure that nobody has to worry about this stuff. Sure, you can put some training in there and get the dog used to you coming towards them and throwing extra bits of chicken and cheese and things like that. But ultimately, if the kids aren't near the dog when they're eating, then nothing can go wrong. Hopefully you're feeding your dog onto a routine, and if you're not, then this is probably a good time to consider changing your dog's routine so they do only get fed at set times of the day, and they're expected to finish their food at the time that it's presented to them. If you have a dog that gets into the habit of grazing, then it's a higher risk that they'll decide to go and eat food at the same time that the kids are in the room. So you can take control of this. Your dog is not expecting to be able to graze, and if they get out of sync with their routine, then often they end up grazing because you don't know when they need fed, you don't know when they're getting hungry. They don't eat the food when you first give it to them because they weren't hungry at that time. So you can put the food down, give them some time. Once they've wandered off, 5 minutes later, if they're not back, lift the food bowl up. Do that again at tea time and keep repeating this until they get back into a routine of eating when the food goes down. You know that if you put food down and they don't eat it straight away, they're really not that hungry. So you don't have to worry that your dog's going to be starving to death and gripping his stomach, all afternoon, because even if he was even close to that, when the food went down, he just would have eaten it, but he didn't because he just wasn't that hungry. Making sure he's got the right amount of food will help with this as well, because when we overfeed, they tend to eat too much at one meal and then they're not ready and hungry when the next meal comes down. So you put it down, they ignore it. A couple of hours later, then only then do they start to get hungry. Then they start to eat the food. Then the next day, they're not hungry until later in the day because the day before they had their food late, and etc, etc. And before you know it, you're properly out of sync with when your dog's eating. And nearly always this is the problem and why dogs don't eat the food when you first give it to them. So make sure you're giving them enough food. Give it to them at set times of the day. Once they've wandered off, if they're not back in 5 minutes, lift it up. Dinner time is over. And you keep repeating that until basically they'll start to get hungry when the food goes down and everything syncs up and it's beautiful. And that way then you can predict when the dog is going to eat. So then you can keep the kids out of the way and it's brilliant for everybody. But if you can't do that, getting the dog used to you just coming near them and throwing lovely tasty treats to them is all that needs to be done. Don't test this. If you put your hand into your dog's food bowl, they will start to worry about their food. They will start to think their food could be taken away at any time, and you will create a problem that was probably never going to happen. This is not about making sure your dogs are bulletproof and safe. It's a bullying tactic that will make them feel unsafe, and it makes them worry about their food. It's so simple. It doesn't even need to be like that. So I hope that's cleared that up. I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.